Hello and welcome to the second episode. In this one we will cover something a bit more specific. In the previous one we covered extension method, which is quite a generic thing in terms of C#. You can apply it to various different concepts, but in this case we will take a look at compression. Now compression in C#, it can actually be done natively, and that is what I want to show you. But I will also show you the sort of messiness that you can find in various different libraries, okay? So let's get started with this sort of native concept first on how you can compress stuff. And if we go here, we have just a simple console application, static void main method, right? The main method of C# application. And there are basically two ways you can do that. You can take a directory, okay? You can take a directory, basically a folder, and you can compress it and make a file out of it. You can make a file out of it, and then you can extract the file into a new directory. So very simple, really. But then you can also create some streams and actually compress the stream without getting into any files. Now, let's get started with our first approach, and as you can see right here we have create from directory. We provide the directory from which the archive will be created. This will be this folder for that's compression, okay? And then we have the second one, which is basically the directory and the file name for the zip file, okay? It's a zip. So by default, the default option, there's only one option, and that is the zip file, okay? You have to have a zip file. Now, as you know, there are many other sort of compression files. So you can have RAR file, you can have TAR file, you can have many files. But the default sort of native C# option is zip, okay? Now after that we have compression level. You have fast, you have optimal, and then you have no compression. So it basically kind of catalogs your folder into this archive, but nothing fancy about that. And then after that you want to do force. I'm not going to get into many of those things, but this is how you do a sort of basic compression. Now do be careful as you do need to have a folder. You can't just take a file. A raw file will not work. It will throw a rather strange error and it will be bad. So you need to take a folder. Now to extract it, you use extract to directory, okay? Use that, and you can just provide the file and then provide the new directory in which it will all be extracted, okay? And it extracts, okay? So now if I just quickly run it for you, it won't actually, we won't get into the files, but I do want to show you that it does work. Okay, and you see it breaks. It did take quite a bit of time, okay, but the file is around 100 megabytes, so it wasn't really that slow. And if we move on, now I have this sort of two-level approach in this little piece of code. You can obviously download the code in or through the link provided, okay. There's always a link provided to some source code, and this one is there as well. Now, we have the stream approach. Now, this one is very tricky, okay? It's very tricky. Basically, you need to use deflate stream, okay? So system IO, compression, and then deflate stream. You use that, okay? In that, you provide your output stream. Now, it's an output stream, mind you. Okay, and then you set the compression level. You provide your output stream. In this case, it's a memory stream, but basically you need to have some write permissions with your streams, your output stream, right? Okay, so after that, this basically just opens, okay, it opens a file, and it puts it into this memory stream, MSTR. It puts it there, and we have our file, okay? We have our file, and to compress it, okay, you use write. Okay, use write from that D stream, deflate stream construction, right? Okay, so write, and then you provide a byte array, okay, a byte array of a file which you want to compress. So that is what you provide, and then it gets compressed and basically it gets put into this output stream. So initially what you provide is your output stream. That's the sort of tricky part of it. You provide your output stream, but then when you use write, you basically provide your data that you want to compress into that output stream. It is sort of simple, but it can be quite tricky, and you have to be very careful with this stuff. It can cause quite a few errors. Now, I did run it, and let's see, we have the MSTR, the original. If we look at that, we have 1002, let's say the length, and then we have output stream. Output stream is 45. Basically, it was cut in half, even more than that. So it was quite efficient and quite a useful thing. You can really save some money with that. Although you have to be careful, and that is the thing about these compressions. Compressions are quite expensive in terms of all the resources required to do them, so you do have to be extremely careful when you actually have to use them. Say if you have a file which sits in your database somewhere for a month, several weeks, it would probably be a good idea to compress it and save some space, because space is obviously quite expensive as well, but probably not as expensive as your sort of operative memory and all the CPU resources and stuff like that. So you do have to be careful. But on the other hand, if you're gonna use your CPU resources on that same file every day, every hour, something like that, maybe it's not really that useful, and you should maybe avoid the compression. Now, as you probably know, there are many types of compressions. You have some simple file sort of based or basic database compression like we have here, but you can also have video file compression. You can lower the quality, you can increase the quality and stuff like that. So when you're dealing with video files especially, you don't really compress them like this. You need to go through different codecs, and you do it in a more of a video way. So that is one piece of advice. But now if we get into these NuGet packages, okay, if I write compression right here, I wrote simple compression, and you can see we have quite a few options, various different options, share, zip, lib, for example. But many of them actually are quite specific to something specific, so you do have to watch out for them. When we talk about compression, you probably want something that takes a byte array or takes a stream and converts it into a smaller byte array or a stream. You don't want something too specific for something specific. Obviously, if you have that need, you have that need, but you can find quite a few of them, but many of them focus on, say, these message compressions or these kind of socket compressions maybe, so you have to be quite careful on what you're buying basically. And if I just go in and say Google some stuff, I can find quite a few options listed like that, but once again you have quite a bit of a difference going on. You have this again, share, zip, lib. I guess this one's quite popular, but you have to be careful. Not all of them do what you might expect them to do. Some of them are a bit more specific than others, and you do have to be careful. So there is the native option. There is this option which you can find online. There is also an advice to you that you do have to really think about before using any kind of a compression. And with all that said, we will conclude this.